So I'm going to now like to introduce Dr. Delphine Malaret-King of The Long Run. She's director of The Long Run. Jared mentioned it. They're the global organization. I always think they're kind of TOFTigers Global rather than just where we are focused. Slightly younger than us, but been going for a number of years, have some great memberships, also have a certification system. Without more ado, I'm going to ask Delphine to take over and really answer the question, is sustainable travel the new global norm? Thank you, Delphine.
Thanks, Julian. Thanks, Jared. I don't know what I can add, actually. After your talk, I think similar themes will kind of appear in what I'm talking about. So picking up from what Jared was saying, I think we don't asking anymore ourselves why we're looking at sustainability or positive impact travel. I think we're facing, challenges that we've never faced before, and it's come now to the fore, globally that, the biodiversity crisis and the climate crisis are, a reality that we have to face, and everybody has to take responsibility. Business has a great opportunity to be a force for good. So, I don't want to get too much into the why, but I think, first and foremost, there's us as humans and businesses in a living planet, where the planet is our life support system. So when people wonder why, sustainability, or why invest in that natural capital or that social capital, I think we have no choice, frankly. But the exciting thing now is that sustainability, responsibility, positive impact travel is definitely becoming a sellable thing. There's been a lot of wonders, a lot of pushback from the sector before, saying, it's boring, people don't want to hear, they just want to have a holiday. But actually they now want to hear. And we're at a great crossroad for the tourism sector, which has such an opportunity to drive positive change and is so connected to the health of the planet for its long-term viability and thriving communities. And now the consumers are joining the movement. So, again, picking up some from the research also that Jared was showing, sustainability is becoming tops in the trends. For the European market, I think 76% of travelers will be more concerned about sustainability after the COVID crisis. Mass tourism, unsustainable models, super jumbles, all are decelerating trends. I think it's very interesting that I think we've seen in what we've shown earlier when Julian was asking about, what was the positive thing about the crisis, and I think in some parts of the world, people have had time to think, have had time to slow down, have had time to reconsider, to refocus, like some of the businesses. And interestingly, that comes into their choices, that reflects in their choices. They're wanting to be connected, to the place they visit, to be more connected to the place they visit, more connected to nature, more local, and more sensitive about their impact. So this is great news as we, trying to reshape and refocus. So thanks, Julian, some great also study from research from booking.com. The figures just speak for themselves. More than 80% or 70% of travelers are interested in sustainability. They're interested in making sustainable choices. And they, I think 52% feel annoyed that when there's no sustainable choices. Well, what does it mean, sustainability for travelers? What does it mean? As Jared said, it's quite a complex concept to capture. The other trends, I think, which have been interesting and which, again, Jared was capturing in the positive impact travel, is that idea that mitigating is not enough anymore. And this is very core to the long run as well. Mitigating our negative impact is just not good enough. We're at a time where we need to have positive impact. So, language, regenerative, climate positivity, positive impact travel. This is all important vocabulary to bear in mind. But again, it has to be meaningful. It has to be substantiated. It has to be thought through. But it's interesting that, again, beyond just carbon zero, it's about how can we positively contribute. For me, tourism has a great opportunity to drive positive change if it's done well. It is linked directly to the resources that, the health of the planet and thriving communities are the basis of the good business. All businesses are linked more or less directly, but tourism has such a direct link, and there's much more to tourism than just conservation and carbon. There's also open-mindedness, this tolerance emanates from tourism, meeting other people, expanding minds, expanding minds and horizons. And I think sometimes we may forget about this. And again, coming back to what Jared was saying, there's a lot of intangibles there that we need to capture somehow. And this may be through stories, not necessarily through numbers. So what do we do in the long run? We've been acting for a better tomorrow for more than a decade, a bit less than TOFTigers, but 12 years. And basically, like TOFTigers, we're a membership organization, and we're bringing together passionate people who are seeking to positively impact the planet and people through their business, and mainly through tourism business. We support, we connect, we inspire members, I'm sure, like TOFTiger does. We rely on this idea that together we can do so much more than on our own. And we always seek to increase our positive impact. And we understand that we're on a journey. We'll never be there, but we continue trying to push the boundaries. So the core of our membership is accommodation. Half of our membership now is accommodation. They're properties that protect biodiversity. So it's basically a network of privately protected areas that have a tourism component. And the other half of our network are supporters, affiliates, and travel partners. And I'm going to talk about them just now. So together our members protect 23 million acres of nature, 300 endangered species, 30,000 species altogether. So we have lots of numbers to show, what you can achieve collectively. But importantly, we see sustainability around 4 lenses. And again, Jared mentioned it, which is conservation, community, culture, and commerce. And I'll talk about this. This is where we are. So we're a global community, and we started in Africa. So we have quite a few members in Africa, and in South America, where our first members came from. And the idea of the long run was really to create a blueprint for how do we shift business practices so that we look at a long-term future, long-term viability of the business, but also long-term conservation. So our mandate is really a conservation one. It's about conserving landscape in perpetuity, and all our members are engaged in a journey together. So what we do is bring together people to share practices, creating an openness, a kind of competition around how far can you push the boundaries of sustainable practices or responsible practices. And we engage people to exchange, learn, push boundaries, and we also provide more tailored expertise through our team, helping members on their journey, with one milestone being achieving our global ecosphere tree standard, which for the moment is for accommodations only. The other part of, of the network is obviously recognizing the importance of tourism as a vehicle for change. So transformational experience, the opportunity to create that special connection between travelers and the place in which they visit, and experience the place through a sustainable lens is hugely powerful to transform people at that place as well as in their lives. So come back to the 4 Cs, because this is really one pillar of the long run, and it's a hugely transferable tools from accommodation to any business. And it's really looking at sustainability from this 4 lens: conservation, community, culture, and commerce. And the idea is that to be truly sustainable, to really look at the long term, all these aspects need to be in balance, and the business and the finance is a huge aspect of long-term viability. Obviously, all of these aspects build on each other and interacts in complex ways. So the idea is to really achieve this balance, but it's also to recognize that this is the balance, that we are looking for balance. So, the bottom line is just not enough. It has, it's the 3 Ps, it's the 4 Cs, but we cannot just look at the finance. And this is not, or the finance as we conceptualize it now, because we can only capture, capital investments. But what about the investment in nature that we need to do, and the investments in the nurturing of communities we're part of? This is sometimes difficult to capture from a financial perspective. So the idea is really to keep in mind, these 4 aspects of all these things that we need to balance. The other strong principle of the 4 Cs is really to take a 360-degree view of your business, of a business or a project, through these lens of sustainability. And it's also about the idea of net positive impact. So again, in each of the Cs, we're looking at both mitigating negative impacts. So for example, in conservation, we're looking at environmental management practices, as well as what are we doing to conserve biodiversity. In community, what we're looking at is both being fair, providing a stimulating workplace, as well as how do we engage in the local community and help local community thrive and the local economy. In the culture, it's about our business culture, as well as being stewards of the culture we're operating on, and how to celebrate this culture in respectful ways. And commerce is about our business, how to envisage long-term viability for our business. And the 4 Cs is very much about a 100-year horizon. So we quit a three-year business cycle to, okay, what is it that we want to, what is it that we want our place to look like? What is it, that we want to see when, in 10 years, 15 years, 100 years. So as I said before, the long run was really much an accommodation organization, and slowly it became obvious that we're missing parts of the the value chain. But also we started to have quite a interest from travel partners, travel designers, travel agents who were pushing the boundaries on, on their part to kind of join the discussion. But also we feel that travel, our travel partners are such a key linchpin. We have accommodation that doing extraordinary work on the ground. We now have travelers who are, want to travel to these places, and the linchpin between both are tour operators, travel agents, designers, and how do we get everyone to embrace a sustainable ethics and shift mindset, shift the paradigm. Travel operators have huge opportunities to engage guests from the beginning into the, okay, we don't like the word educate, but to raise awareness, to engage the guest in that journey from when they even dream of the journey. They also have the opportunity to really look at what suppliers are doing, what accommodation are doing, who, your influence is really on the guests as well as on the accommodation and the places you're sending your guests to. And then the third point is really the opportunity for travel partners to help the guests make informed choices. The 4Cs framework, for example, and this is something that we're working with our travel partners, can help travel partners screen suppliers, but also talk about sustainability. Again, picking up from Jared, I think we're sending the same messages. Sustainability is a nebulous word, but if you're talking about social, if you're talking about community, if you're talking about culture, if you're talking about conservation, then it becomes tangible, and people see how they can partake in that positive impact. So the critical bit is always, how to sell positive impact travel, how to sell sustainability, but it has become a selling point. So we can be really creative, but with a really enthusiastic, consumer base. The issue that's happening since this awakening to, the positive impact travel or sustainability is a lot of greenwashing is going on. So it's important to be it will be important for travel partners and tour operators, travel agents to really embrace, be transparent, be informed themselves, to be able to guide consumers and be trusted, in this position. The other thing I think that's important, and again, I think Jared mentioned it, is sustainable travel is exciting. It's looking at how does going to a place, to a place that is a custodian of the land, that engages in the local economy in a positive way, that has a great collaborative relationship in the communities it lives with, and great wildlife. I mean, for me, it's quite obvious how the experience will be richer, deeper. A lot of our members celebrate, the accommodations celebrate their engagement in their sustainability journey, in the GR journey, by creating experience around this. One of the many experience in our members, which is quite unlikely, but the back of house tour for guests is one of the most enjoyed experience in our membership. They're so excited about what they're doing back of house and engaging other team members in the guest journey. This has been one of the greatest feedback we have. But these are some examples of experiences that our members are creating, around sustainability. So in terms of guest education, so Ecotoscamp in Kenya, for example, has a 4Cs Explorer tent, which explain what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, and they're linked to a global community, a global movement. and creating all these impact experience, which is, including foraging, getting engaged in the conservancy, in a community conservancy. Nikoi, a lot of our members engaged there, and I'm sure a lot of, accommodations, engage guests into tracking wildlife, monitoring, being part of the place they're in. And I think this is kind of the unique experiences that accommodation that are so deeply engaged in the place they're operating with can offer. So really, just to round up, I think we all have the responsibility now to shift how we do business, that sustainability is not a choice, positive impact travel is an imperative. I think guests are looking for it. There's there's enormous good work going on the on the ground, and you have an incredible role to play in awakening the guest, engaging them in that positive impact travel from the beginning, as well as linking them with great properties that are doing amazing work and that will provide them with a unique experience. And that's it for me.
Brilliant, lovely. Thank you very much for reinforcing much of what Jared was saying, and saying that's very much the trend and the scope going forward. So actually two wonderful sort of outside of sort of India dimensions in terms of what's happening, what's driving the market, and really interesting. So